Introverts, how did you meet your girlfriend? She came over to me in a coffee shop while she was on vacation in my country to ask how to tip. We had a 2-hour conversation and then an amazing 5-hour lunch 2 days later. She complained about her hostel and I offered her my spare bedroom. She accepted. Nothing happened, although it seems crystal clear in retrospect that we were falling for each other. Duh. I didn't want to be douchey and make her feel uncomfortable under my roof, so putting the moves on her was not something I seriously considered. 2 nights later, I had to be gone for most of the night on a work assignment, and I asked if she would please watch and walk my dog in my absence. I came home at 5 AM and was greeted by my suddenly very soft, very fluffy dog. She had somehow understood, "Will you please watch my dog?" and apparently didn't find that a strange request at all. The next evening, after we'd been talking over a bottle of wine for hours, it seemed she'd had enough of my apparent indecisiveness, took the wine glass out of my hand, put it down, and leaned in for a kiss. That was 26 years ago. We've been married 23 years. On the Greyhound. During my time in the army I was stationed at Fort Eustis, Virginia. On my way home, Denver, Colorado, at the time, for Christmas I saw her sitting across from and slightly behind me. Honestly, I didn't pay much attention to her at first, but my buddy, seated next to her, did. After getting shot down repeatedly for a day and a half, he finally got off the bus. Shortly thereafter she came over and sat next to me, and we started talking. After that we got split up, put on different buses, and I kicked myself for not getting her number. Then, when the bus stopped in St. Louis, there she was standing right there in the entrance, almost like she was waiting for me. If my bus had arrived 15 minutes later I'd have never seen her again. Then I found out the bus to Denver was delayed due to snow and wasn't going anywhere for at least 2 days. She hurried over to the ticket counter and had my ticket changed to Des Moines, Iowa, where she was going, so I wouldn't be trapped in St. Louis for 2 days. We spent the next 4 days getting to know each other, then I continued home. We had a long distance relationship for about 6 months, until I came home permanently, by which time she had moved to Denver and rented an apartment. We got married 3 years later and have been together 10 years total. You could make a movie about this. After 4 years of no dating following a crushing breakup, a mutual friend called to my attention she was into me. I was oblivious. I didn't know her very well, but I was ready to try again. I wasn't even sure I was very attracted to her, but I figured it couldn't hurt to go out on a date with a nice girl. We hit it off. She's pretty shy, which is why she said she'd never had the courage to try to talk to me. In the course of the first date I'm slowly realizing she's amazing. Many years later, now we have 2 kids, and there's just a lot of love in our lives. AWW. My first girlfriend happened this way. She out of the blue pursued me because I must have made a good impression the first time we hung out with a mutual friend. Didn't find her attractive tbh, and was really hesitant about reciprocating because, you know, didn't want to hurt her if I changed my mind, and also first girlfriend, so I was pretty clueless. Fast forward a year or so, we are madly in love, and I realize she's one of the most physically beautiful people I've ever seen. It just took me a while to see it. I still think about her sometimes, but that's life. Everything would have been totally different had we stayed together, and while I do miss her and the feeling of being completely comfortable and in love with someone, I wouldn't be the same person today, and I honestly wasn't emotionally mature enough to sustain that type of relationship and keep both of us happy. I really hope she's happy and hope I can find someone to make me feel like that again. My husband is an introvert. I liked him all through high school. We were friends for 13 years. Finally, one day, I looked at him and said, "How come we've never dated? We should date." He said okay. Got married in 2015, had our baby in 2016. I knew someone in high school, had a bit of a crush on her. Both of us too introverted to do anything about it. We didn't see each other for a few years after high school. I was with some friends from college when we recognized each other. After a few months of hanging out, we figured we should go out as we intended in high school. That was 4 years ago. We got married last October and adopted a lizard together at a garage sale. Well, technically my mom's garage sale. My father was a hoarder, but not of old newspapers or glass bottles or garbage. He hoarded consumer goods, tools, CDs, home improvement stuff, camping gear, hunting and fishing stuff. The man had piles and piles of it stuffed into his home, most of it pretty high quality, all bought on clearance. The old man was a sucker for a deal, even if he didn't have a use for it. After he passed away, it fell to us to figure out what to do with a stock of overstocked goods large enough to open a store. So we sold it at rock bottom prices in the front yard, as is tradition. It was a miserably hot summer's day. My mom requested that I come over and help, because the house was on a well-trafficked street, and the sheer volume of stuff meant there would be tons of people. She was right, there'd been a zillion people the day before, and though we'd sold a lot of stuff, there was much more yet to go. And today, I'd put an ad up on Craigslist, it was even busier. It was a long day of haggling with strangers, but at the end of the day, we'd sold 90% of the load, and we were just getting ready to close up and celebrate our success with pizza. Then this car pulls up, and out hops this gorgeous girl. She starts poking around in the CDs first, finds a couple she loves, then waves me over and starts asking about some she's unfamiliar with. Think she thought that, since she'd found a few things she liked, the stuff she hadn't heard might be in the same vein, not knowing it was purchased indiscriminately from bargain bins all over town. I answer as best I can. I hadn't heard most of them, but I was able to steer her to a couple she might enjoy. We kept chatting, and I sort of showed her around in between helping other people who kept showing up. There was definitely an instant attraction, and some really great conversation. She had to get going, so I made her a sweetheart deal on the stuff, and helped her to her car. She got in, drove away, and then I realized I hadn't gotten her number. My brother and my neighbor had a ducking field day at my stupidity. But she told me where she worked, at a restaurant down the road, and she told me the days she was usually scheduled. So I did something very unusual for me and pursued it. Friday afternoons, I'd drive over from my office and ask to sit in her section. The food was terrible, but she'd stop and chat as long as it wasn't busy, and I caught her mirroring a few times. So on my third visit, I told her I'd love to see more of her and asked for her number. 10 years, a marriage, and a child, and we are still head over heels for each other. So I guess I owe my dad for the posthumous hookup. TL. Dr. am only person in history to get something at his own garage sale. I'm a female, but I'm very introverted. I met my now husband at the gym. I would always work out with my brother, and my now husband thought I was dating my brother because we were always at the gym together. When he asked my brother how long we had been dating, we both looked at each other and said UHH, we are siblings so never. He asked my brother if we could all work out sometime, and I went full on awkward when we did. He was showing me a new workout, and he almost smashed my face in with a dumbbell. I walked off because I was so embarrassed and started working out alone. Then he asked me out to lunch, and we hit it off. He was in the corner, drinking a bottle of water. I noticed him immediately, and I noticed him noticing me for the better part of an hour. I finally just walked up to him after I figured he was too shy to approach me. We chatted for about 2 hours and then left. Later in school, we exchanged our AOL screen names, and that after weeks of random chat sessions, he finally worked up the courage to ask if I wanted to see a movie, Harry Potter match. During the date, he didn't say anything, but I noticed him very fidgety, so I decided to hold his hand. After the movie, we were sitting in his car in silence, and he was fidgety again, so I grabbed his face and kissed his cheek. He turned completely red, but was grinning ear to ear. In person, he had trouble stringing sentences together, but online we would chat for hours. He had to express his love via email and cuddling without saying a word. We first met over 14 years ago, bought a house together, and getting married in October. Going to Disney and Universal for our honeymoon / celebrate Halloween. It's pretty much amazing. As we get older, he's gotten much more vocal, but I still do most of the talking and socializing. We do a squeeze when holding hands to mean love you. If we don't want to talk, love him to pieces.